With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Build a polished wardrobe that shows you stay you wherever you go with Mac Weldon. Use code MAC25 for 25% off your first order of $125 or more at macweldon.com.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
If you love entertainment, current events, and Hollywood, don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today we have a special guest.
My name's Ollie Byrd.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I love going back to the beginning. I always say the beginning charts our trajectory in life, our little habits we pick up along the way, and things that that mean a lot to us when we're kids kind of follow us into our adulthood. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like? And kind of how did you find your way into music?
Well, when I was like a little kid, my mom was a fan and had the records of many folks. And I was just kind of lucky to hear those records. She had a 78 of the Beatles, Got to Get You Into My Life.
Nice.
And I heard that, I don't know, I might have been 3 or 4. And I was like, play it again, Mom, play it again, Mom. So that was kind of a big one for me. And I was also really lucky that my mom sang to me. She was a really good mom. So she used to sing lullabies and things like that. So, being really little, those were really great exposures to music.
I love that.
Also, yeah.
I love that your mom had such a really cool because it's good that she that's a great place to start with music, like musically, right? And then where else can you go from there?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and back at that time they had these big record player things that they looked like refrigerators. And they took up a significant part of the living room, and it was just a different time. But yeah, the records really stood out back then as like jewels or something.
Yeah. Yeah, music now is it's so different, just I think I don't know, back then I think just it was just a different time, and I think music I think we kind of got away from what music means or the meaning of music, it's just I guess as a whole, not everyone, but those the classic, the that's why they're called the greats, right? For
Yeah.
some reason.
Yeah, I mean, it took a lot to get to where those folks got. I mean, I'm just thinking of my mom's records. I think there was like Elvis, Moody Blue,
Mhm.
and like maybe some Harry Belafonte. I
Nice.
mean, the things those guys went through to get to where they were, they went through ordeals.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
I'm not saying that made it better, but I certainly can respect it. but also,
Yeah.
people making music on their laptop at home is also cool in its own way.
It is. It is cool actually. It's a different time, right? With just, how much we've kind of progressed with technology and AI. I mean, the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, yeah, it's really something. Um, I don't even think like I have listeners on TikTok, and I don't even think they care whatsoever what the Billboard 100 is. I mean, a lot of them don't even know who the artists are in the Billboard
Mm,
100. They're just listening to their own little gems they find. A lot of them.
yeah,
I think that's kind of cool. Um,
yeah. It is. It really is. I read in your bio, like, very cool. Like, I just love that you talked about when you were 18, you had a date with a girl and you dreamed of dating when you were 14. Like, that's kind of
yeah.
cool. Like, and then you wrote a song about it. Like, that's amazing that you were inspired to write something about it. Like, usually, at least I don't remember, like, when I got my first heartbreak, I didn't think about writing about it. I did actually film it. That was my creative outlet to kind of process it.
Oh, wow. What kind of film was that?
It was very dark.
Oh, wow.
It's very dark and very I was all the characters. I was him, and then I was also myself. So I was playing both characters, but it's me. But it was one of those things of, like, just processing, like, you have to have, like, a place to let it, to have it to go somewhere, right? So it's kind of cool that, like, creatives, we do have that where we can, like, you wrote a song, like, and not many people write about it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that one just kind of came out of me. It was after about a year after she had stopped speaking to me. I think we had spent 4 or 5 years together.
Oh,
Yeah. And it was just really hard to believe that she had stopped speaking to me. And then that song just kind of came out like almost just like crying. It was just really visceral. And it was just accepting that, yeah, wow, this person really has left you.
yeah.
um, but yeah, I recorded it much later. But I did I did write that. It's one of the first songs I wrote as a solo artist.
Wow. Wow.
So, and it's you know, I'm thankful to have had the beautiful relationship that we had. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot when you lose one of those first primary relationships.
It's very devastating. It feels like you're never going to be able to, like, actually move on. But it's one of those things, it's one of the biggest lessons, I think, in our development, especially when we have, like, a young first love. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, people are really like this, and it just gets you prepared for, a series of datings, dating the dating world and get older. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, wow. That's optimistic. I hope it prepared me. I'm still working on it.
Aren't we all? Aren't we
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
I love to talk about your song, The Sun Will Bring the Day Again.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the process of that. Where did it come from and what inspired it? Yeah.
Originally, there was going to be a chorus that was optimistic that said the sun will bring the day again.
Hmm.
But I really couldn't bring myself to sing that, so I made it the title. um, but yeah, I mean, the song is just kind of a crying about losing this girl and accepting that life goes on. It's very simple feeling. It's a very simple song, and some of my other music is not so simple. So it's cool to have this out. I think as a songwriter, some of us have a bias towards complexity or
Mm.
being fancy, and maybe we overlook some of the more simple stuff. And I didn't really think like has done really well on TikTok. And
Nice.
I didn't anticipate that at all. I was just kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
They started sharing on TikTok right away and saying like they loved it, and I was like, what's going on here? Because I didn't really see. And I think there's some to the simplicity. I was also
Yeah.
around the same time listening to Bob Marley's "No Woman, No Cry,"
Oh, that's a great one. It's a great one.
and I just put that live at the Lyceum version of that on repeat sometimes.
Hmm.
And I was like, maybe I'm not saying that this song is as good as that song, but there's a similar kind of simplicity to that. And there's a beauty to that song. He's talking about they're hanging out by the fire in the government yard, cooking oatmeal porridge or whatever. It's just very simple, but yet it's this huge, bright feeling. And um, yeah, I think sometimes as songwriters, or maybe as creators, I don't know what your take is on that either as a filmmaker, but maybe we overlook the specialness of some of these simpler things.
Very true. We do. Yeah. Yeah, because I think that's what people resonate with. I think it doesn't have to, I think that a lot, I mean, this is something that everyone's had a heartbreak at some point, unless, I don't know, unless you're perfect, but I have yet to find that.
Yeah.
But I've definitely, I think that's something that's very common, and
Yeah.
around the world.
And there's something about like the heartbreak that defies a bunch of words. There
Mm,
are some topics about which you might just want to write a whole bunch of words and metaphors. And the thing about this kind of loss is it's hard to even get out a few words.
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I know the feeling. Oh my gosh, and it's crazy because it's like I feel like the same thing feels it feels the same way when you lose someone like a best friend that you feel like they're gonna be in your life forever, and then they're just not. And it's just how do you continue on? And then, but what I'm learning too, like, and this is gonna sound a little kind of not to say TMI, but just I just feel like it's very important to embrace letting go because I feel like it opens up the door for new relationships and people, whether that's romantic or friendships. I think, a lot of times holding on can kind of be our, because it's familiar, right? It's comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a real challenge to let go of that. Um,
How do you do it?
I think it's just you have to, right? Like
Yeah.
you either you're either letting go and free to continue to grow in the world, or you're like stuck.
Mm,
And I was in a band for a long time, and the band, we grew apart musically too, and that's kind of how this solo project got started. But that's just how it goes, right? Like
yeah.
life goes on, and you can't put your foot in the same stream twice and all that.
Yeah.
Um,
I was reading something. It says that you said something about um acceptance. What did you mean when you said in the song the song is about acceptance?
oh yeah, that was just like really realizing this girl that I had thought would be my wife was
Mm,
just gone. And there was a period, I think, of denial where I was like, no way is she actually leaving me. And
mm,
then there was a day where I woke up and said, wow, she's really gone. And
yeah.
that's really the feeling that this song was about, was just the acceptance.
Yeah,
Um,
I felt the emptiness. I felt it in when I was listening. I definitely felt the emotion of it. Like, and I don't know if that was something that you wanted to do purposefully, but I think you nailed it. Like just that, like like that feeling of of that loss, and I know it's like a low kind of vibration, but it's also very like haunting. But um, yeah, but it's like, yeah, I completely understand.
yeah, I mean, I think also in that I'm reckoning with my own shame, for
Mm,
messing the relationship up. Um,
mm,
coming to terms with that I did not, I kind of took this person for granted. Um, but I think there's kind of a sun behind the song that's kind of reflects the actual love too. So I don't know. I think there's a loss, and then there's also a kind of sense of what happened, or a gratitude.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, in those losses, there's the gratitude of having had something special in your life as well.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that we appreciate things when it's gone?
Yeah, yeah.
It's very interesting. It's one of those things I wonder why that is. Maybe a part of us feel like this person is a forever kind of person. And I mean, nothing's forever, right? Everything's temporary, like even
Yeah,
ourselves.
right. Yeah, it's I think also, I mean, in this case, I was like 18 to 23 or 4 during this relationship.
Yeah. So
And
that growth.
I mean, yeah, that's a very young mind, especially on
Yeah.
a dude.
Right.
um, I don't think I would ever be that I don't think I ever took someone for granted in that way again. So that's a
Mm.
good lesson, I guess I learned.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Tell me about the process of like, I mean, how were you in the when you create, music, are you in there with the producer, kind of like telling them like this is what I want the sound to be, this is what I want, like as far as instruments. I mean, how close did
Oh,
you work with the producer?
I actually produce myself and I play
Oh,
everything usually.
nice, nice.
So that is something I started doing around 2005 or something like that. And I got pretty decent at it. Um, but yeah, usually I start out with a guitar riff and then I just build things around the guitar riff. And in a lot of cases, lyrics will be last and be based on things like sound. In this case, the lyrics were more first and were really about a topic. So
Yeah.
this is a really kind of different song than my usual songs.
No, I love that.
Um, thanks. Yeah. So yeah, I'm the producer of these things.
I think you kind of have to be, right? I was reading an article. I think it was oh gosh, I think it was some artist, and he was basically saying how, nowadays with technology, I mean, you can essentially make an album yourself, with AI and all the things that we have tool like opposed to before, way back when our parents were growing up, it wasn't like that. The reality was completely different. Like, AI wasn't as
Yeah.
it wasn't there. So now it's like everything is kind of sped up, and I mean, you can have like a team of 10 people with AI.
Wow.
How do you feel about it?
Well, the record I'm known for came out in 2006, and I made it myself on a computer.
Nice.
And at that time, that was kind of new. It was kind of a new thing. Of course, it's totally common today, but I really loved that because it gives you unlimited time to to some extent to get whatever takes you want. And I had worked in the studio for money with a producer, and the feeling that being under the gun in terms of on the schedule and all that stuff, it really got in the way of the mood for me. And
Mm,
I just decided I'd rather have more of a lo-fi sound and get the right mood. I decided that would be better than having a hi-fi sound under a bunch of pressure where the kind of creative energy gets lost. But
yeah.
I watched with glee as over time more and more people started producing their own stuff, and now it's just like on Spotify, really thousands of groups and artists are putting out great work um, on their home computers. And I really just wonder how much longer things like Billboard Top 100 or something can continue. I mean, it's really the power of the major corporations that are keeping that going.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely. I mean, there's so much indie out, and that gets overlooked, but we still, you still hear about it and you're like, wow, mainstream isn't as, I don't know. I don't think we really care so much now. I don't know.
yeah, I've talked in a few interviews recently about I got categorized in this uh, something called lo-fi emo by the
Hmm.
algorithm, and I went and searched out a lot of these artists, and it's great. I was like, wow, this is most all of it's quite good. And
Yeah.
not much of it is corporate or you know, um famous or some of them have a million listeners or whatever, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I imagine we're going into some kind of world where there's more of that, or
Absolutely.
it just becomes the way it is. Like you know, there might be the farmers market in your town, and the farmers bring in whatever the local crops are. I mean, I could see music getting more like that level than like
Hmm.
Elvis.
Right. Definitely.
Like,
Absolutely.
who knows how it will go. But yeah, I think we're in a pretty interesting change. And in terms of AI, I've never used it. Um, I'm fortunate in that I grew up learning the instruments. Um, and I'll probably continue to use instruments, but I'm not against AI, and it's definitely interesting. Um, I just don't think it's something I'll be getting into, but certainly if you're doing like rap or other kinds of less instrument based stuff, I mean, I could see it being incredible. Like this, maybe the kind of sampling you could do by using AI.
Hmm.
I mean, I imagine you could do like I've always been really amazed with like Kanye sampling on like
Oh yeah.
graduation day or whatever.
Yeah.
And but I imagine you could do that kind of stuff with AI, but just by in talking in like 4 minutes. Like, give
Yeah.
me a piece of this Elton John song and loop it.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that probably took Kanye a couple days. So wow. I mean, I'd like to see who can do that well. But
Yeah, same.
some of the AI audio has sounded pretty flimsy so far. But I imagine the audio will catch up soon to the processing of it.
Absolutely. I love that. I have a fun question, and I love asking this question. If you could have a coffee with any living legend, living, or dead, who would it be, and what would you ask them on a coffee date?
Wow, that's that's a hard one. Um, just offhand, one of my favorite musicians is Stuart Copeland, the drummer of the Police.
Nice.
And I just think he's kind of funny, but he has a kind of groove that I think is really interesting. And I think I'd like to just talk to him about rhythm and
Mm,
his notion of groove. The Police famously split into Sting going solo,
yeah.
and Sting is frequently praised as this like uh genius master craftsman and all that, but I kind of think in the Police the drumming is kind of the star.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that doesn't get said very much. So
Yeah.
yeah, that the music of the Police was a big deal on me, especially in terms of thinking about grooves, and his drumming he definitely sets up a special sounding groove in
I
that
love that.
music. He's the one offhand I would think of.
That's great. That's a
Yeah,
great answer.
I
It's
don't
a
know
great
if you're
answer.
familiar with him at all, but
I definitely know Sting for sure.
yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
know
So
who that is for sure. But you're right. We don't really hear about the drummers. We don't really hear when especially when there's a group like a Blink 182 or a Green Day. You don't really hear about the drummers, the people that are doing all the work. And yeah, I'm not saying that it's a collective of sure, but it
yeah,
is a lot of work that goes into, drumming and like you said, the groove
yeah,
that kind of gets overlooked.
especially Green Day too. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Green Day, but those bass lines and drums are a really big deal in those songs. And you mostly
Yeah.
do hear about Billy Joe or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's always the lead singer. And I don't know if that's a corporate, like I don't know if that's a machine or whatnot pushing that narrative, but it's very interesting. It's a very interesting time like that we're in just overall and the state of our world. Do like what inspires you as far as like an art like artistry, like creatively, you know, um is it just things that happen in life or is it just
Well, for a long time, I was into just a ton of music that I had been introduced to, and I would lean into like this, the sound of this or that group, and kind of seek inspiration. I was always into this band, A Flock of Seagulls,
hmm
and just kind of the music I grew up with. In recent times, I'm seeking more inspiration from just things like nature and
nice.
um like I've been going to waterfalls, and I've also been like reading the Bible, and I've been listening to this guy Jeremy Enoch's
I've
music.
heard of him.
He's well known for being the singer of a band called Sunny Day Real Estate, but he has
Nice.
solo records that are kind of acoustic based, which I've been really impressed with lately. And I've also been getting into Nick Drake. He's really well known folk singer, I think from the late 60s and early 70s. Um, so I'm going in a kind of guitar music, acoustic guitar direction, and basing it more on sort of real life experience, less so than um, seeking to look at, influences from a lot of the corporate music that I grew up with. Um, I also got tired of sort of hard rock and metal in a way.
Mhm.
That was a big part of my life. I grew up in the grunge era, and
Yeah.
Radiohead, Nirvana, all those things were a big deal. And I think that's a long time ago, and I've kind of grown out of that stuff. And I feel like there's a direction for us rock musicians that's
Mhm.
somewhere beyond doing more Nirvana sounding things.
Yeah. I
I
love
hope
that.
I hope I could do some of that stuff. And this kid Jerry, or he's not a kid, but Jeremy Enoch did do that for, I think he's made 5 or 6 records that are solo. Pretty impressive stuff.
Nice. Nice.
Um, so anyway, yeah, he's an interesting case too. This band he was in was supposed to be huge, and he just kind of stopped doing it, and he like found Jesus and scaled back.
Wow. It's
And
amazing.
I think that's an interesting story that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Especially with the other singers from the grunge era that it hasn't gone so well for them.
Hmm.
Sad to say. So I think
Right.
Eddie Vedder is one of the only ones that is living. So anyway, I try to look more towards the things that sustain life, to sustain music, rather than
I,
towards the corporate background that we've received growing up or whatever.
yeah. Yeah. I was talking to someone about that, just like, just how the corporate world kind of forces you to like something. It's like you're gonna like this artist, or you're gonna like this music because you hear it. You'll be just out and about, and you'll hear it on the plane, you hear it on a bus, you hear it just anywhere. You'll see it on the billboard. Like we're constantly bombarded with music and or different things that they want you to hear. And
Yep.
I mean, if you just listen to that, then that's all you have. But if you go out and seek other people that are not being pushed, I feel like it's very important to do that. And I love that you're all about that.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people too have just uh have wisened up to that. That a lot of the stuff that was supposed to be the world growing up was just promotion.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know to what extent people will disagree, but I think even things like the Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd and Bob
yeah,
Dylan, I think all that stuff's a little bit questionable as to was it really what they said. I'm not saying it's bad, but
yeah.
they put a lot of money behind that stuff.
Oh yeah, one
and
thousand
I know
percent.
and you find stuff that was unknown from these eras, like this gal Karen Dalton. I don't know if you heard her,
I don't think
but
so.
if you just go to the 70s and you can find tons of people that didn't get covered, they weren't in Rolling Stone, and you just be like, wow, this is as great as Bob Dylan easily. Um,
Wow.
that happens to me frequently, but yeah, I think people have wisened up to that now, especially the younger generations. They can see through um, a lot of that. But yeah, I
Definitely.
mean, ultimately, it's music can be about just playing with folks in your neighborhood and
Very true.
playing in church or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I love that.
it's a trip what they built with the famous artist paradigm of Elvis to Madonna or whatever. I mean, wow.
I
They built
mean,
something huge there.
you're right that it's kind of one of those things that's like and I understand why a lot of people want to go mainstream because it's like visibility and you get more whatever, but I feel like there's something to it when you can do that and reach people, but still not go corporate and still have you maintain your freedom of being able to create when you want to create and not have a deadline. I feel like there's something to that actually is so freeing. Um, but
Yeah,
you
and
know,
I'm often impressed when I see people like leave their famous band and make a little record or something.
yeah,
You see that every now and again, and I'm like, good for you,
yeah, exactly, exactly. What advice would you give to those like up and coming artists or people that are trying to just get in it in this music business?
um, I just think sound. This is really basic, but sound is the thing to think about, and it's like for kids who are recording, they'll get into like, how do I get this? How do I get that? And like, it's really simple. You just listen, like you listen to the headphones and listen to what you're doing. And you can
Yeah,
go a long way without watching a YouTube video of like, there's all this advice, how to get a drum sound, how to get a bass sound, how to use compression. Like, I mean, that might be good or whatever, but you can go a long way just listening to your own headphones.
I
And I
love
think
that.
I think kids are kind of taught, not to take their own ears seriously, but if you've got the ears, you can do it. Just keep
Yeah,
trying to get the sound you want. And if a YouTube tutorial can help you, that's cool, but you know, don't ignore your own ears, I guess is what
I,
I'd say.
I love that. Absolutely. Yeah, because there's something about it when you're being your I think there's, and I was talking to a really good friend and um we've been talking about just stepping in your authenticity. I think there's something to that, right? When you step into that place of you know being able to accept all of you and not trying to be like anyone else, that that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think so. It's really all, from what I can tell, it's really all there is. I
Yeah.
guess you can, I mean, this is stuff Rick Rubin says everywhere all day, but
I love Rick Rubin. He's just so chill. I just want to sit down and talk to the guy. I just wonder what a day would be like with that guy. He just seems so chill.
but yeah, I mean, I guess you can try to make something that sounds like something, and it might make some money, but it isn't going to hold up. And
Exactly.
you know, uh, it's all, yeah, I think that's all you've got is just to be real with yourself or your creator. Um,
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I have one last question.
yeah.
Um, and I love ending with this, but when you get to the end of your life and you get to the pearly gates of heaven and you meet God, what would you want God to say about all that you've done on this earth?
Oh wow. I really couldn't answer that one. That's out of my league, but it's something to think about. I appreciate that as a something to think about as I move forward.
Nothing like good job or good job or you did well, kid.
Oh man, I guess it's just too much for me to imagine that far. I mean,
He's
I
like,
hope
I'm
I
not
have
dead, Neosha.
that's a long way, I hope away, but
Right.
it's hard to imagine. But I think what matters in life is to be a loving person. I think that
Absolutely.
might be important. That's
Yeah.
the best I
I
could
like
come
that.
up with.
I like that. I love it. Where can people find you on social media to follow everything you got going on?
Mainly TikTok is where things are happening. It's Ollie Byrd, OLLIEBYRD. And then the streaming platforms, same guy, Ollie Byrd on Spotify or Apple Music. Um, that's about it. I don't really,
Awesome.
nothing's really happening on Instagram for me, and
Awesome.
I'm kind of fine with that. It's I don't know what's going on over there, but it's pretty strange. The feed or whatever.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was
All right,
really
I really
fun.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.